advantageous matchup here and maybe snag away some of these very predominant pairings that we've seen crop up in Split 2 so far, Alk.
Yeah, no Seraphine Ashe, at least for game number 1, Nocturne. I'm kind of waiting, because this means we're either going to have the Rumble or the Orianna get through, or,
Rise
I mean,
too.
In a scary world, maybe both of them get through, and then we're kind of in uncharted territory, especially for the Clockwork Wind-Up lady herself. It's going to be Nico. Okay, so are we taking Ori? Ori's been the champion of the season, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, we've got the Ori still available. We've also got the Rumble still available. That's kind of been like the best top laner, the most contested top laner. But it seems like we're going to pivot toward jungle. I think that if you go for Pantheon here, you do potentially surrender. I mean, with Seraphine and Karma taken away, those are probably the two best pairings. So unless we see like a Yunara Lulu here, I don't think LNG are going to be picking bot lane on 1-2. Maybe they have like another creative angle they want to go for, but I would imagine mid jungle is probably the response out of the gate here for LNG. That Rise is still available, that Xin Zhao is still available as well, but you do lose a little bit of power with the Xin Zhao because the Ashe and Seraphine are no longer available to give you free push in bot.
Maybe they just take the Xin Zhao Lulu, right? As a 1-2, you kind of know what you're going to get there. There's Orianna. Not really too surprising. And then you mentioned it yourself. Are we going to see the Rise? I know we've been seeing a little bit of Azir. We've been seeing some Talia. So kind of up to Angel what he wants to go for. There's a graphic that we didn't get to show up, but was on the official LPL Chinese broadcast talking about Azir's win rate. And he's the most play champion in LPL for mid lane. So not too surprising. I like this from EDG, though. Let's take away the Lulu from the Xin Zhao. You talked about already the Seraphine being banned, so now we have a very strong 2v2 in bottom lane, and now with a Rumble potentially being hovered, I wonder what the lane matchups here for EDG are going to be, especially the Pantheon just being able to attack side lanes so well.
And I do think that if Rumble is banned away here, an obvious ban that'll follow up from LNG probably has to be the Ornn. I mean, Masterwork items combined with the Yunara scaling just make her such a potent threat, and also it's a decent lane counter into the Rumble. I think LNG have drafted themselves a relatively good top side, but when I think of good ball deliverers and good initiators, I don't know. I feel like Xin Zhao being the only one here would probably not be in LNG's best interest. So I think EDG should try and target maybe some other initiation tools that might be under Missing's radar, because I do not think that it's enough, frankly, as we are going to see the second bans come on through. Some top lane bans just to make sure that that Rumble matchup is more advantageous. Again, I'm advocating for Ornn. I think the more frontline bodies you put in front of Yunara, the easier your game is going to be.
Too bad, unfortunately. It's probably Cassante. That's just...
It might, yeah, you probably did.
Yeah. I like this from EDG. Let's take away the Nami so we can get rid of the Corki pairing as well. It was going to be another thing. Doesn't solve the frontline issues that you were looking for, but I think if you're just talking about range, Rumble plus Corki Nami sounds super miserable to play against if you are Yunara and Lulu later on in the game. There's the Ornn, which has been ZDZ's most played champion so far this year. I think a decent enough takeaway, and now kind of looking to LNG. What else are we going to go for? You still technically have things like the Kaisa. We have, obviously not Varus, but, I mean, I'm looking what's kind of left from 1XN.
Lucian Milio, has propped up a little bit more in priority, which is interesting because a lot of people aren't huge on it elsewhere. A lot of people think that the pairing is not great, but, like, it is, I think, really had a resurgence in popularity. Instead, though, it's going to be the Aphelios locked in here. I would imagine probably paired up with a tankier support. So EDG are really wise to go for the Anivia, who exploits lack of range. And this is also a flex pick. Won't remain a flex pick for very long because they're just going to be picking 4 or 5 here. And also the Lulu is banned and I'm blind. But the Anivia into the Orianna, generally an okay-ish matchup. I think that BuLLDog can survive in this lane because you've got the range and the poke threat with the ball. Anivia is more so, like I said, great at exploiting.
It's top Anivia!
Oh.
We saw this the other night. Yeah, Hoya played some top Anivia. We won't talk about the results of that series, but I enjoyed it. Obviously, Zeus played this a long time ago. I think at the beginning of this year or maybe last year. Look, my memory is completely shot, but I remember Anivia top. I'm really, really excited to see this, because into Rumble, this is kind of the matchup that was kind of brewing for a little bit that I know we've seen a little bit of. So I think Anivia provides a lot of control when we talk about space. You move into an objective, and now you're going to have to be playing against Pantheon. Anivia is going to wall away, and you're going to be forcing flashes out of an Aphelios, an Orianna, or a Rumble now going into team fights. We're going to have a last pick Thresh here for missing, just to provide some safety for his frontline carries and some of these backliners, but I think with no tanks here for EDG outside of a Pantheon, this is a very tricky composition we'll be seeing from them.
Yeah, I do think that it is partially relying on the scaling of Anivia and the Yunara to go through, but so long as ZDZ is able to keep his distance away from Sheer, I do think that the kill threat is very minimal for a lot of these lanes. Top lane is probably the lane that I'll be looking at to be attacked the most here, though, if I am LNG, just because, like, Yunara Lulu, it's incredibly hard to punish that. Azir, it's incredibly hard to punish that, so getting Rumble ahead as well, I think, just gives you so much damage once he hits 2 items. So that's really what I'm going to be looking at. We've talked about Sheer's Rumble in the past as one of his best champions, so it's time to prove it. He's back on Comfort, and LNG are back with their full roster here in Group Nirvana.
Yeah, and we're getting ready here for game number 1. Again, it is the first series of Group Nirvana here in split number 2. It's a single round robin, so for 2 teams with big expectations and kind of big eyes on them as the big dogs here in the group, it'll be on them to get the first win of the season and kind of stamp their name in terms of who is going to be coming out of this group. Potentially top 2. That is what we're looking for both of these lineups. Suzhou, let's start to get a little bit more excited. We're heading into game number 1 between EDG and LNG. I got so afraid, man. I was really worried we were going to get a no Jiahyo chant for game number 1. It's happened before.
I mean, EDG were clearly the louder team, is what winning a world championship does to your organization in terms of getting fans. Who would have thought?
Yep, there is a cleanse immediately gained here. Missing does land the hook, and that will be coming back up very shortly. Interesting to note, we are going to see more Electrocute Anivia top lane. So it seems like that is the preferred keystone when you're playing into the Rumble, and a Glacial Augment. It's been a while since I've seen some Glacial Augment, so I'm glad to see it pop up here and there over Aftershock. Oh my god, Leave.
I have Flash and I am Leave. I think the graphic just got a lot more foretelling on how this game is going. Leave forced to burn both summoners really early on, and Croco is pathing down toward the bot lane, so this is definitely a precarious situation that I think EDG's bot lane duo have found themselves in early here. Pantheon, though, is also headed bot, so I do wonder if we'll see a 3v3 skirmish. And one thing I'll be looking at, if that does actually break out, is going to be the Aphelios guns. I think are really indicative of the damage that we should be seeing from LNG early, if there is a 3v3.
Yep. Noticing immediately that LNG put a lot of early focus on vision coverage, so they put it on both Raptor camps here in this game. They got to spot out where Pantheon started. They know that he's going to be on this side of the map. Croco can completely hold this side. I don't think 1xN is going to be able to burn through enough ammunition to lose Calibrum and Severum, so it's going to be rather difficult to deal with, especially the Glacial Augment debuff that's going to be applied if he's able to land any crowd control in the relevant area. Looks like instead Xiaohao recognizing, I have no jungle priority, I must leave this side of the lane. Croco's more than likely going to be grabbing himself the bottom side scuttle and helping out 1xN continue his lead.
Yeah, Xiaohao, after he finished that top side, opted to immediately go to the blue. You can see, though, that he's actually crossing toward the bot lane, despite that lack of priority that you talked about, Alk, maybe just to try and cover any pressure that Croco wants to put onto the lane. But it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case, so maybe Croco, with mid-priority, just has the opportunity to cross over. He probably anticipates that Xiaohao is actually on that top scuttle, so he just goes for a reset himself.
I wonder if that ward actually sees him, because there's a lot of times, especially in that banana brush
is strange.
If you don't place it in the exact right spot a lot of times, it will not see over the wall. So More than likely, as we just got to take a look at, Xiaohao and Croco will both take their resets. They're going to both head towards top side, which slightly favored towards EDG. As you see, ZDZ is already moving, and something that I love about playing Anivia early on that I think sometimes people don't really take advantage of is having the egg revive early. It basically is a free reset. Yes, you don't get to spend your money, but you get essentially almost all of your HP back, especially early on, and that could be the difference maker when you're just trying to completely lane bully someone on this pick.
And there have been a good number of times where a team has overloaded a side to try and catch out the Anivia and get a pick, and that egg gets popped. The rest of the team that the Anivia has just kind of are able to group on over. They're like in the vicinity, and they're actually able to move or finish off any kills that might have been set up by the Anivia initially. So it's also good in just buying time for the rest of the team to join up. That is something that Xiaohao, once he gets ult, could maybe look to do.
ZDZ does get to trade. Sheer just trying to...
I think it's egg popped here. Yep.
Yeah, that's egg. There we go. You got a free health bar, basically. Sheer does miss out on some of the golden experience, but I think you just look at Anivia. Sure, you got the full heal, but you have no mana.
Exactly.
And the wave is pushing away. He has to force this scenario, and Sheer gets a recall. He'll TP back. He actually buys a no magic mantle on top of this to try to mitigate some of that damage. And so we'll see what Sheer is able to do with this. It might just turn into a few minions in his advantage. Or maybe he just tries to trap ZDZ, but I don't think you get that option as Rumble this early on, not until you have level 6.
ZDZ being able to ding level 6 there as well to weaken the remaining minions on the wave as well does allow him to back with a relatively okay wave state. He also still has that flash, so if Sheer is going to continue his more aggressive escapades as we've seen over the past minute or so, there is definitely a way where Anivia can escape from that, but Croco has now finished his second full clear, and he has Prio in bot lane, so it's just going to immediately be a jump onto the Dragon. No cross-map play really possible here for EDG. We see Xiaohao on the top side, but I don't think a dive is really in the cards against a Rumble with Flash and ult now.
Oh, he doesn't have ult. He just used ult. I think he's maybe afraid that Xiaohao was going to come up. Doesn't have a wave quite yet, and really doesn't have level 6. I think that's really what he's looking for if he's able to get the blue buff, which he is kind of hankering for. We're seeing that BuLLDog's going to lean, try to cover for his jungler. Very, very smart by Xiaohao.
Yeah.
Recognizes that BuLLDog's moving, doesn't even start this to not give away free information. Fortunately, Fey Lights does have him a little bit trapped, and there we go. Vision toggle from our observers. They're going to show us that LNG do spot this. Okay. No more action, at least for the time being. I'm going to have to use the dreaded S word here, Quax. What do we feel about the scaling of these two competitions? We kind of missed out on this conversation during draft. Is there one of these that we think is maybe more advantageous for one of our teams?
I mean, I'll never doubt the scaling of a Yunara Lulu ever again. This is such a lethal 2v2 and does so much in the late game. I think the biggest ability of Yunara, though, is not necessarily solely reliant on her. You have to have good frontliners and good peel in order to make that happen, and I think that Anivia with the wall and then the Azir with the Emperor's Divide do provide that. So I actually really like EDG's comp later on in the game, and Leave did burn his flash early, but that has now come off of cooldown, so wasn't really punishable by LNG, and so far nothing has really happened on the map so far. I mean, no kills to be had, only one dragon to be claimed. Krubs might spawn some action in about 30 seconds here, as we do see both top laners kind of jockeying for control of that wave, but curiously Croco is deciding to move on and goes toward the bot side, so that indicates to me that LNG aren't actually interested in this and might be looking for a play for a cross.
He might have a timer here, though. I mean, so he'll finish bot side camps. He does get spotted thanks to a ward by EDG. But both bot lanes have taken a reset. It is a priority from LNG to get this wave in first and then move over to this objective. Side laning is always super tricky, especially for the team that is playing against a Pantheon. If there's an Orianna with no sums, if there's a Rumble with no summoner spells, that can be an avenue for you to generate some kind of advantage on the map, whether that be temporarily or, you know, for the long term. Taking a look back at this game, I mean, yeah, this is a very boring game. I think Dia maybe missed out.
But we're certainly not. You know, even though the first 8.5 minutes have been really slow, especially by LPL standards, once the floodgates open, I feel no one's gonna be damming them back up again.
No one's safe.
It's just gonna be no one is safe. As we did talk about those grubs, they've been up for about 50 seconds here. ZDZ with full cryo is going to be able to drop down a ward. They have control over that part of the map, and they're just going to be looking to make a play. Croco is looking for that cross map that we mentioned, Alk, but does get spotted on a ward, and there are no camps to steal either, so this just kind of feels like what happened when LNG initially took that dragon. You get a pick, or, well, you get a play, and because the game has been so clinical, there really isn't anything to be had on the opposite side of the map. Nothing to trade here for LNG.
You can tell that this is maybe like a little bit more jungle skewed cast with yourself here, just because grubs spawn and you're like, those things have been up for almost a minute, they need to die right now. We need to get this off the map immediately. There is no pass and go until these grubs are gone. Angel, I don't know if you're allowed to be on this side, brother. That's a shockwave for more than half of your health. You'll use the Emperor's Divide and the shifting sands to get him out, but he should just take a recall. He'll try to go for a teleport here, and more than likely he's going to be LNG contesting for a respawn Raptors here for Croco.
Yeah, Croco's going to, because he has Cryo in the mid lane and a health advantage here for BuLLDog, he's going to be able to get a tiny little minuscule camp advantage, but I do think that EDG are aware of that because there are plenty of wards on that topside river. So it is going to be a reset from Xiaohao. And I think this is really smart because you actually don't mess up your pathing if you're able to immediately put yourself on the map and continue clearing downwards. So as long as Xiaohao is looking for these angles with ult, I think that he is achieving what he needs to on the Pantheon. But so far, again, nothing really possible. And Zhui actually wants to say, hey, let's settle the score. They walk in near the Raptors, but Missing is here to cover.
So BuLLDog doesn't have ultimate. Neither does Angel, though, and so this will be no contest. We have 30 seconds before Drag. Oh, we are going for an ultimate. Aphelios, are you too far up here, brother? Flash is gone. That's the start here. No cleanse. Guess what? You try to pop the ghost, but you're entirely stunned from a Grand Starfall. Thank you to Xiaohao. That's first blood over to EDG.
Yup, and Xiaohao waits, and he listens, and he watches, and he finally sees an angle. 1xN. Also forced to burn the flash in that play as well, so even off of the respawns that we'll be seeing from both of these teams, that is something that EDG can look to exploit, especially with Angel having that Emperor's Divide off of cooldown very soon. There is possibility for Azir to potentially scoop up the Aphelios if the two get involved in this future dragon fight. But because the resets were here for EDG, you can see that Croco staying on the map. He will actually still have a presence near that river.
And because they died first, 1xN actually gets to come back out of the map a little bit faster. I am going to be very worried for him, however, because, like you mentioned, no flash for him. Leave and Xiaohao both had to use that summoner spell on that last play to make it work, but that turned into an item completion. This is a Kraken Slayer at 11.5 minutes here for the Yunara. I think if you're LNG, as soon as that gets updated on your minimap, you're saying, nope, we're not going to fight this anymore. I, as the Xin Zhao, am going to cross to the top side, and we're going to look elsewhere. Looking at it, though, are they going to repeat this? They might just go for a lane gank here, but the Fey Lights are completely warded. We're bringing multiple members. Maybe this is just get your plates and call it a night. Leave has no flash. Transcendence is coming up in 8 seconds, though, so that's a free dash for him to get out of dodge.
Look at the amount of plates that ZDZ's actually managed to get and acquire here toward the top side. I mean, it's a lot of gold going over to the Anivia so far. We haven't really had time to take full inventory of the top side because generally I think we can label ZDZ and Sheer as more weak side, less aggressive top laners, but yeah, that gold lead is accumulating and Leave is just going forward.
Leave, yeah, transcend on these fools. Do not get them any space, and Croco has been doing Dragon the entire time.
He's completely alone. He's cut off.
Yeah, letting his AD carry just tank the bout for them. Who are we getting into a smite fight with? It's Xin Zhao who wins this. Who needs a better blade? Who needs a Comet Spear? Who needs a Pantheon? That's the first kill going over to LNG in this fight, and the Dark Passage is going to bring him to safety. LNG now have 2 dragons. They'll get themselves a kill on the play as well. You're feeling good about this. You got the stacking advantage, at least of the soul, maybe.
Yeah. Missing, though, with a really good hook there, being able to, even though no one was around Croco, that hook allows for the range of the other LNG members over the wall to actually hit onto the Pantheon. So they managed to burst him down. They get the Dragon, like you said, as well as being able to maintain that flash for the Xin Zhao. So Croco is going to be able to continue looking aggressively here. And I feel like that aggression has to be somewhat geared toward this top side. ZDZ has been kind of allowed to run this matchup by himself for, I feel, a little too long. And Anivia, especially without any innate mobility, this is something you got to try and look to punish here as LNG, as it looks like their punishment is going to come in the form of a lane swap Alk. BuLLDog is going to have a much better time than Rumble because you just have the range capable of being able to dish out what you're taking.
Yeah, and at least when BuLLDog hits his ultimate on the wave, usually it disappears. If Sheer does that, unfortunately on the Rumble, you try to equalize the mini wave, it takes a little bit of time. It has to burn down, it has to cook in the fry vats, so maybe with this build, I mean, Tier 3 boots already completed, it is upgraded Lucidity, so he'll have a more adaptive force if he uses a summoner spell, and does have the Luden, so the burst is available, but ZDZ is very slowly becoming maybe a big problem now. I mean, 3 stacks of the Rod of Ages is going to also be finishing what looks to be a Leandri, so that's another 300 HP that you have to deal with as well. Anivia might just get out of that threshold very, very quickly here, and with Revive, I mean, that's basically 2 health bars you're playing through.
And especially because we also mentioned the Anivia's effectiveness doesn't just innately come from the lane matchup up against the Rumble, but also
leave! Yeah, delete this brother. He has McHale's. He tried to use the heal from it. Leave, again, swat him away. Take priority over mid, and now we can contest for this Herald. This really feels like the first objective we have seen EDG fight for.
And Croco is completely forced to abandon that objective. You can see that Xiaohao moves in. They're going to be the ones that actually take the Herald here. So really good punish by the overextension from LNG from Leave. And ZDZ now going to be able to join up with them. Again, like we talked about, this Anivia, not only is the lane matchup something that we're looking at for it to really push forward as an advantage, but also how it places that wall and how it acts as kind of that disengage, how it acts as that peel for the Yunara, going to be really important to keep stock of, especially as the lane assignments continue to get a little bit more muddied. And if EDG decide to group up, that has to be, you think, the main function of this Anivia, along with controlling some of these tighter spaces around objectives in the jungle.
3 grubs, Herald, EDG might have a massive gold influx coming soon. We have Dragon spawning in a minute and a half, and if they either decide to fight for this play and then win it, or if they just summon the Herald and take one of these 2 turrets, either in mid or bottom lane, suddenly I think this gold lead balloons and maybe doubles in its value here, which could help when we're talking about in terms of scaling. You can get those items. Yunara is 2 items at 16 minutes. That is a massive boon. And I was just checking real quickly on the numbers here. Missing has 80 armor, which may not seem like a bunch, but because Thresh has basically no armor thanks to the way his passive works, Yunara plus true damage is just kind of gonna eat this guy up. And there's no aftershock either, so if you're not landing any crowd control, you're just a walking bag of money.
You really are. I think that Leave is going to have a really good time in this game, especially with Angel and ZDZ being able to back him up. Xiaohao as well, able to block some of that damage with his E. So there's just a lot of peel tools to allow Leave to really be unleashed, and this was a question that we had about EDG going into the split. How well were they going to be able to facilitate Leave in a very rough first split for Edward Gaming? In 2026. Now, Dragon up in less than 30 seconds. Like you said, that Herald is still available for Xiaohao, so if he wants to use that to pull pressure. He got rooted.
Yeah, I think he is fine, though, because he's already popped the Transcendence. He has no cleanse, and he must fight. Does still have the flash, so maybe we see that from him. That's a very big tool being taken away from EDG. Oh, the minion. That minion. We need to be giving that minion a massive raise if we are EDG. Stops the hook from missing, and I think now stops all dragon stacking here from LNG.
Yeah, you really are, again, lacking those solid initiation buttons. We talked about this in the draft, but LNG, like, not only do you not have a lot of great champions that Orianna can follow up with the ball, like these really hard committal engages from the side of LNG, but also just being able to get the fight started, I feel, is a task in of itself, not only because you don't have solid engage, but also because, like, even if you throw something like an equalizer to try and start a fight, EDG can just walk away, or they can put up walls and barriers in the place of that negative space between the two teams to peel away from the fight. So it just feels very difficult for LNG to get a fight on their own terms, and this allows Edward Gaming to scale up Leave even more and make sure that a lot of these late game pieces of this comp are able to get to those very crucial breakpoints.
If we're talking about effective, how we're kind of utilizing these leads, you know, half of this gold lead here for EDG is in ZDZ, who has not joined very many of these fights, if any at all. So, effectively, LNG, while they haven't had their top laner join any of these fights, if they just kill Leave, I think they're going to feel more than happy with the state of the game. Looks like another turret is going to fall here, this time bot lane tier 1, which I think for me, Quax, is really, really worrisome if you are LNG, because Angel is now going to get closer and closer to finishing his second item as a Zir. We've already talked about the gold and the items here for Leave and ZDZ, so we're kind of getting to that precipice here where I think Edward Gaming are going to feel very, very powerful for the next few minutes, and LNG still have yet to kind of put together a team fight that is giving us a lot to get excited about.
And Herald going to be popped here in mid with the sole goal of taking down all of these tier 1s. I think they're going to be able to do it with the wall separating LNG.
That is a shockwave that does no damage, and LNG, they're losing their jungler, while on the other side of this fight, Leave is moving forward onto 1xN and missing, isn't able to finalize that kill, and I think a very trepidatious line of play here. If EDG get 1 or 2 kills in that moment, we're at 20 minutes. I think a Baron was on the cards with that Herald and the teleport coming in from Angel.
But even now, I feel like the Baron is a very easy possibility for Edward Gaming because you took all of the outer turrets, so this gives Xiaohao a lot more room to look for those Grand Starfalls. We already talked about the punishment that Pantheon can deliver if someone is overextended on a side lane. Well, that overextension threshold just widened for the side of EDG. So I think those opportunities are going to start being a lot more plentiful. We can already see that Sheer is forced to run away after putting that bot lane wave in kind of a middle state because they don't know where Xiaohao is, and they understand that Pantheon can punish him if he goes up too far.
My favorite part about casting Pantheon in particular is that anytime I don't see him directly on my screen and I'm looking only at the minimap and I see him stop moving, I'm like, okay, is he ulting? Is this guy going somewhere?
Yeah, we can't see the outline.
Yeah. And, you know, to be fair, we're talking about these side lanes. I mean, with mid-tier 1 down, if 1xN steps a little too far or maybe Thresh is not in the right position, that's a Pantheon, and that's maybe a kill, maybe some extra summoner spells. So always think to be keeping in mind, and probably why LNG are feeling like caged animals right now. There's no space for them to move into. Anytime they want to make a play or catch some waves, they always have to put more members onto that side of the map. We can even see BuLLDog now moving into mid. We're a minute and a half before Dragon, and I think if EDG grab this next objective, this throws the whole game into their pocket.
Yeah, because you're going to be waiting 10 minutes until Seoul becomes like a viable win con, and that 10 minutes in League of Legends terms, Alk, is like enough to do your taxes, get married, go to college, like get.
Are you doing that in that order?
Well, no, I'm just saying.
Am I only allowed to get married if I do my taxes? Because I would be in a lot of trouble.
Okay, well, do taxes, go to college, get married, earn 6 figs, die, come back to life. All of that can be done in 10 minutes for League of Legends.
Can I be reborn as a rich person's dog? That sounds like an amazing time.
Well, what kind?
I don't want to have to do taxes in my next life.
Well, what breed are we talking here, dog?
It doesn't matter. Dude, it's a rich person's dog. I'm set up for I'm eating like tuna tartare and 3 Kobe beef for the rest of my life. I'm chilling.
I would prefer to be reborn as a cat.
That's okay. Do you have a breed in mind? I know I completely ducked that side of the question. You just want to be a tabby cat, an orange cat?
Just orange. It's not even a breed, but it might as well be.
It's a mindset.
Right. Leave is an orange cat for sure, like spiritually.
I could see that. Yeah. We you know, surprisingly enough, if it was only Leave this game, we've had very few orange cap moments from him.
Yeah, and that's like both a pleasant surprise and kind of a disappointing one, because I do think that Leave's ability to just turn the game from 0 to 100 in the matter of a split second has always been such a joy to watch, no matter what team he's on.
Hold up now. Quax, you don't get to... I don't think that that's true. I don't think you actually believe that that's a joy. From the talks we've had, between the series, I don't think that's true. I don't think joy is the word you would use to describe
maybe I
that.
speak for more than just me. You know, it's an audience appeasal thing.
We'll get back to that. We'll see if we get another Leave moment here. Xiaohao's going to take the Blast Cone. We're doing some damage on Sheer, but this is mostly a precautionary tale. You are not allowed to step up to the wave. You are not pass and go. You will not be collecting $200. Instead, you are going to lose half of your HP. Anivia is going to get a little bit more priority. Take another wave here while Jue sits in Fog. And honestly, this feels like the Nirvana that we've been missing. The no-action gameplay. We don't. This is the LPL's equivalent of a Fries group. So the fact that there's really not been very much action is very, very on brand.
But I do think that it is a little bit disappointing, especially for LNG. I mean, this is a team that really thrived in the chaos of Nirvana for split #1, where we would see Croco and BuLLDog make crazy plays going forward. Like in the first 15, 20 minutes of the game, they would always be the guys leading the vanguard and looking for a lot of these proactive angles. We haven't really been able to see that. I think that EDG have done a really good job at specifically making sure that this top side is as irrelevant as possible at trying to be proactive. And all the while, we already talked about it, EDG, we think, have the superior scaling. So it just feels like LNG are in a race against the clock, but that clock is getting progressively more sped up minute by minute because EDG just don't give them any angles to actually punish.
Do you have any opinions on the plague that has been Proto Belt mids this season? I just looked at our mids inventories and kind of like my eyes glazed over.
I mean, so I did talk about this on a recent cast that I had, but I think that Proto Belt is so obviously for those of you who don't know, the reason for it is it's very simple. Chovy is doing it.
Yes.
I mean, what can you expect? Brother is from the third best region right now, so we all got to build what the third best region is doing, right?
True.
I'm probably gonna get flamed for that, and I accept that.
Maybe they should have won first stand.
Yeah, they should have. But like on another hand, like I think back to Gale Force, right? Like this is basically the mage equivalent of Gale Force, and a lot of AD carries with that item were able to play a lot more aggressively. Were able to posture a lot more aggressively, and generally could play up more. As speaking of playing up, Croco is looking for some action. Finally.
Nope.
Nope.
Nope. No fun allowed. Sorry, this is
Hey,
Nirvana.
anyway.
Yeah, as we were saying, Gale Force mids. Yeah.
Yep, Gale Force mid. So I mean, it just allows mid laners to play up with a little bit more confidence, and that's always nice. Confidence is nice. EDG have so much confidence, in fact, that they're gonna start up the Baron.
Yeah, this is a sexy, sexy ward from LNG. It spots out EDG, and it's not swept out at all. They got the teleport from Sheer. That might just be the prize. A minute before this next dragon, I know we were talking about that Soul is not really a conversation we're going to have for a little bit of time here, so getting that really big cooldown out from the top laner of LNG does feel like a worthwhile prize here, as EDG have maintained a very slow and steady lead. It was, what, 2,000 about like 5 to 8 minutes ago? Now it's at 3,000. It's not overwhelming, and I gotta say, outside of that, I mean, the thing I'll be looking for is that Leave is not going to be able to finish Infinity Edge on 4 here. You won't have time to recall for it.
So you don't hit a massive breakpoint, but you are definitely still stronger than 1xN at this point in the game as the Yunar, especially paired up with that Lulu. So you can still play with that extra bout of confidence. You can still take control of this game. And EDG also having the more friendly route toward mid should be able to have priority around the zone in preparation for the Dragon in less than 20 minutes. And I just feel like with the damage that LNG have, they are not going to be able to threaten like a Baron if they wanted to. They either have to give this Dragon or they have to look for something else. And I don't think that, especially with the way these waves are positioned, they're going to be able to get any of these outer bricks to fall.
Well, if LNG wanted to have lane control or zone control, they needed to be to an objective first. Orianna and Thresh can do wonders.
Just going to the Baron.
First. We're going to Baron here. I mean, this is the Felios with red guns. He does a hell of a lot of damage. There's no teleport coming in from Angel anymore. They're playing to one side. Baron's already half HP. They're using the equalizer to kick them out. They're having Grand Starfall tried to join in. The Baron is secured. But can LNG get to safety? It seems like for now the answer is going to be yes. So they'll get 800 gold, but what else are they going to be able to grab from it? Because they don't have any grubs, and they don't really have control of any of the side lanes right now.
Yeah. So LNG do manage to actually go for the trade. I said that it probably wasn't possible with their current damage profile, but I feel like EDG were just a little too afraid to pull that trigger. I mean, Xiaohao was behind. He wasn't willing to, you know, deliver that Grand Starfall into the pit to maybe look for the smite steal. So it just feels like EDG more or less let that be taken. I feel like they could have gone for the fight, but given how this game has kind of been on sticks and stones throughout almost 30 minutes we've been live, they don't want to risk blowing the game open and maybe giving LNG a way back into the match.
So I really disagree with what LNG are doing here. We're putting 5 members on mid,
with
coming
Baron
off of our result. Yeah, with Baron, and you know that there's no teleports from the side laners, from the solo laners of EDG, and Pantheon just use ultimate. Now we're just seeing Leaf completely step up, forces the flash out from Sheer. Angel also trying to go for Croco. That'll get another summoner spell for EDG. While LNG, cool, you'll keep your purple buff, but you're not really getting a lot of plates right now. And I think that was where the power of this objective was going to be. Getting those plates and getting all of this gold back into some of these carries.
And now that LNG have kind of dispersed that 5-man unit in the mid lane that we just talked about, EDG can work on taking more space on the sides. That tier 2 from mid was obviously taken, so it's hard to get any more gold from that lane. But top and mid still have their inners available. So if EDG want to continue taking the standing gold on the map, those have to be the lanes that they are looking to attack from. They just also want to be defending their own turrets, as well as LNG having the Baron. That's going to be the big difference maker. They finally get their first turret and, frankly, their first inkling of gold this game. The LNG have been so starved so far. I mean, it's 1 kill in an almost 31-minute game. Give these poor souls some food.
No. EDG fans are very happy about starving them out right now. And a lot of this has come thanks to Leave's Yunara.
Ooh, Angel has a nasty flank here.
Does he find something? 1xN just dies before the fight even starts. Angel's going to flash forward. There's the engage that EDG were looking for. And it seems like this might be the end that EDG are trying to get. Summoner spells are being damned. Croco's moving forward. Did they finally find the fight that they needed to? That's an engage on his EDZ. That'll be the egg being popped. They still have Baron. And LNG, have they just found the one team fight that'll get them back into the game and maybe even go from here? They have 1 minion wave left, and it's only Xiaohao and Jui.
They literally have no wave clear. It's 30 seconds until Angel comes back. Leaf should be up in 20. I don't think they can end, but I do think that they could get the inhibitor. You were talking about the Nirvana that we missed, Alk. This is the Nirvana that we missed.
Yes, it was 4 kills. It was 3 players from EDG and 1 player from LNG. We got 4 kills, finally. We'll take a look back at this fight. Just a really good observer vision toggle, and like you were mentioning, a fantastic start to it with the flank from Angel.
Yeah, so I'm really interested where this fight actually broke down for EDG. So Leave goes in, Flash is the Leave
there we go.
Aggressive Flash. Always, like, we put so many resources into this Yunara, it falls way sooner. Angel actually has a really good Zhonya's and keeps 3 members at bay, where Sheer is completely alone, being able to kind of basically hold everyone down as well, burn everyone away now that he has, like, 3 items. So it just feels like Leave going a little too far forward. We've put all of our eggs in the Yunara basket, and the egg shatters on impact.
ZDZ's actually stuck. He walled himself.
He's got no egg.
Door stuck. That's Dragon now. LNG, I think we're going to a 7th Dragon here in our game number 1. This is the first series of Group Nirvana, and Nirvana things are happening. I don't know if we're really ascending mentally or spiritually, but at least in terms of gameplay, I'm having a lot of fun here.
We can see that Angel is going to be able to claim some turret plate gold, and Jui is also here to kind of back him up, but not for long. He's actually going to be able to take the turret entirely, so some more gold being given over to the Azir, but BuLLDog is going to be able to catch this wave and has teleport. Doesn't look like, though, that a fight is going to break out. Yeah, like you said, Alk, LNG going to get the 6th of the game in terms of dragons. And yeah, ZDZ just traps himself in his own wall. Tries to Zhonya's to delay time, but he's got no one around him, so a bit of an oopsie from the EDG top laner.
Also, extremely expensive, not just because they lose the dragon, but he just teleported. That's why he has that massive shield. He just teleported to bot lane, and it's gone now. So, this Baron in 40 seconds, the game, the gold lead that EDG has, completely gone now. It is an even game by all accounts. 3 dragons apiece. EDG are going to feel nicer because they have 3 Infernal Dragons, but that's 9% bonus ability power and attack damage. I don't think it's going to make a massive difference here in these
Not
fights.
at this point in the game. Absolutely. And the big thing that will make a difference, though, is the Baron. We can see that EDG are, like, setting up a death brush around this area. Because LNG went toward the dragon, they committed a lot of their vision toward that bot side. So it's going to be a pretty dark map for them. They're going to have to clear that out. And this game is just completely flipped on its head. It was a total snooze fest for, like, 90% of it, but now, I mean, one fight, and I just feel like that could potentially be the game. For either
the difference in items, they're trying to hunt out Angel, uses the Proto Belt to get away, but BuLLDog can just chase him down. He has so much damage on this Orianna build. Zhonya's is gone. I mean, there's the flash from Jue. That'll be a 4v5 now here for LNG, and they'll have perfect setup going into this Baron. If EDG have managed to lose after such a dominant start to this game, what else is left for us here in Group Nirvana? Single round robin and a Baron left here that is going to equalize this game heavily.
Xiaohao is still up, but I don't think that he wants to chance a 50-50 at this current point. LNG are just going to be able to claim this. We can see that the wave on bot side is kind of pushing up for Edward Gaming, so ZDZ is going to be able to, I think, probably clear out this wave, but because of the empowered recalls, LNG's response time is going to be that much quicker, so no threat onto that inner brick on bot side. EDG don't get anything. Like, LNG are starting to, I feel, be as clinical as we saw EDG were in like the first 25 minutes of the game. Will they have a leave moment that maybe disrupts this game back from it already being disrupted? That's the big million-dollar question.
Look at this lead in jungle. I mean, Croco's been building this for a large portion of the game, and for as much promise of a threat of this Pantheon, a lot of these ultimates have kind of gone a little askew. I mean, there's that Baron, obviously, the one where he's behind the Baron pit. Then even the mid play where we saw Angel tank up 3 different members. Xiaohao is in kind of not the greatest position to really help out his team. And Pantheon especially, I feel, is a champion that can do so well in early stages of a game. But as soon as you die once, or if you give up your lead, the champion is kind of foregone at that point. So LNG, they'll continue to control this, and I think the Baron has a perfect timer in terms of 1.5 minutes left on the duration, and we've got 2 minutes before this dragon spawns.
Xiaohao has to flash. Croco doesn't have his own to commit to a follow-up if the wind becomes lightning, so he's not going to be able to get a kill. Angel on the other side manages to, again, have some pressure on the bot side, get more gold for the Azir, but I mean, what's gold if you're not actually going to be able to flex it, right? What's a wallet dip if you're not going to be able to slap the enemy team with it? And so far, this Azir has had very few opportunities in the last 10 or so minutes to actually make a big difference in these team fights.
If that wall comes in from ZDZ, maybe some magic happens. Maybe. You saw Pantheon as well, kind of sitting in Fog of War, waiting with his ultimate to look for an overextension. LNG will not give them the fight that they are looking for. And Quax, it now comes down to this. There's no need to talk about scaling. There's no need to talk about how these two compositions kind of interact. We've got a soul coming up in a minute's time. And taking a look at some of the inventories and summoner spell checks, LNG are in a very, very good position. The only one that I might call out is no flash for BuLLDog, but that's going to come up before this next objective spawns.
Yeah, you've got Zhonya's for Sheer. You've got Guardian Angel here for Croco, so I think that this Xin Zhao is going to have to start up these fights knowing that he has an extra life bar given to him. Xiaohao as well also has that, so it's also important who you engage onto. There goes the crazy play.
Yeah, here's the equalizer. It's some good damage, and Missing's trying to flash. Look at where Leave is. He's on the mid wave. They do not have the connect of their AD carry to bring him into the fold for this play. Leave is stepping forward, transcends himself, and tries to find 1xN, but a shockwave gets him and takes him down. EDG are forcing into LNG's backline, but with a Thresh, but with this Xin Zhao, and with this Orianna, it is not enough. EDG is looking, but it's nothing. It's a complete whiff of a play. EDG went from winning this game to barely losing this, and now LNG are gonna march down mid and take game number 1.
And Leave steps up too far. He tries to look for the hero play, but the hero dies. It's a bad ending for EDG, and LNG, with 3 members alive and death timers of an almost 40-minute game, will take the first match of this series and the first game of Nirvana in Split 2.
Oh my, how did they come back from this game? Oh, you're going to be wanting those moments back as Edward Gaming. I wouldn't say as many Leave moments as we thought there was going to be, but there was that one in mid that we were kind of maybe like, maybe that kind of puts the game into some jeopardy.
It's like when this is gonna go off really crazy here, but like,
get in there.
It's like when you're on the subway and you're sitting next to a guy and he's like trying to pickpocket you and he's already messed up twice and you like are on to him, but you have to like keep like making sure that you're like staying away from him because he won't stop. Like, I know it's coming. I know that the Rambo play will be here, but it amazes me every single time, frankly. It's amazing. How? I don't understand. Welcome back to Nirvana, guys.
Yeah, welcome back to Nirvana, definitely. I'm at a loss for words. I was like, okay, we're doing good. I mean, 1xN can't really operate in a lot of these fights. The Aphelios does not get time to move forward, but BuLLDog on these shockwaves was really, really dangerous. We didn't even get the soul fight. Like, that's the thing I'm probably the most sad about. We didn't even get to see them at least pretend like we're gonna fight for the dragon. EDG just gotta trip and stumble before the objective even spawns.
Yeah, Leave gets caught out by the shockwave. Sheer flashes in. They both end up like dying, but like if you're able to kill the golden goose of Edward Gaming, like that is absolutely worth it, because that is literally what Edward Gaming's comp banked on, right? Was the scaling and the zone control that you had for that top side in relative terms to keep everyone away from the Yunara. That's what the whole comp was relying on. And when the Yunara just decides to be the guy jumping over the walls and going in, well, then it all falls apart. And I feel like Leave only did that like twice, but LNG were able to make use of every single one of those very few moments. It's such a heartbreaking loss for EDG, and man, I'm flabbergasted.
Yeah, I want to be really, really forward with everybody. Yes, Leave had some of the bigger moments that maybe caused his team to be in a bit of a difficult position, but when was the Anivia going to get into range, right? When were we really going to see even Xiaohao actually threaten the backline in a lot of instances? There was, I think, a lot of good plays from Angel where he's moving forward, tanking up or taking a lot of space from their opponents, but I don't think we actually got to see other members of EDG actually get into position or really get into a spot where they could play the game. So you could blame Leave. I think in general, this was a very big team-wide issue where I don't think we necessarily understood how we wanted to play with this Anivia.
The game definitely slowed down, and again, I will die on this hill that was in the advantage of Edward Gaming's comp, where a slower, more drawn-out game is better for you, but I just feel like there were a few plays, this one in particular, that broke the game wide open and gave opportunities, particularly to 1xN, to kind of get back into this game. I think a lot of people will definitely point to Leave having early advantages over 1xN. This Aphelios had a really rough start, but I mean, just as the game gets further and further, Aphelios becomes stronger and stronger too. He's able to match the scaling with the Yunara, so that early lead that you came out to in bot lane matters less and less. So credit to LNG for picking their moments and choosing their timers, but man, EDG, we still see those moments come through, don't we, Alk?
These replays hurt me. On a
Even
metaphysical
that one,
level.
like Flash Hook will never not be like kind of funny to me. Like even if I'm like deadpan face while I'm reacting to it, I'm laughing on the inside just now.
Oh, Jesus
God,
Christ,
even the Wild Growth came out, it wasn't enough.
Yep.
Like I can't, man.
They just didn't have the damage. Yeah, I feel like EDG just didn't really again, understand how they wanted to fight this. It is a tricky comp, right? We were talking about, hey, there's no frontliners. There's really no way you're going to kind of be able to build yourself I think a consistent enough front-to-back team. You need to have Anivia buying time. You need to have in position already for fights. And if Lee's going to go forward like that, if we're going to catch off an Azir using a Shockwave, Anivia can't move that fast. Anivia can't react that fast a lot of the time. So back to the drawing board here for EDG, and what do you think are some of the positives here from LNG? Because that early game looked really suspect, and there is, I think, still some things that we can work on here.
I mean, credit where credit is due. Even though it was like them kind of bleeding out, like the bleeding never got to a point where it was super alarming, right? Like EDG didn't really get many kills in the early game, right? Like they weren't necessarily setting a bunch of the LNG members super duper far behind. So when the fights did eventually start to break out in more grandiose quantities and more grandiose 5v5s, like once LNG got kills, they were able to basically shore up that gold lead right away. So like I even though they had like a very rough 20 minutes, no one was really dying. And so like that I think deserves praise, because the moment that the deaths started piling up, they were all on EDG's side.
Once the game actually started getting going, LNG seemed to kind of wake up and get everything warmed up. We saw there, Croco does get himself the Game 1 MVP. And before we toss it to a break, we want to remind everybody at home that if you want to support the LPL English project, you can do so by giving us some dollars, some dosh over on Coffee. If you'd like to support us here at LPL English, consider becoming a Coffee member. Coffee is the best way to support us here, as the vast majority of your contributions go directly into the show, while a lot of the first-time payments go into upgrading the broadcast. A lot of it does help pay our on-air talent and content creators, the volunteers that make this project work and run so smoothly. Subscribe to our Coffee, linked in chat at the moment, to unlock perks like early access to content and the ability to ask on-site interviews for some of those that'll be coming up for our internationals. I know MSIs was a little bit fun. So we're going to take a short break. Hopefully EDG can kind of solve some of the issues that we saw, or maybe LNG just take a clean 2-0 to start off Group Nirvana here in split number